Dela's voice has been made possible by the generosity of sponsors like you. Every single person in this world has a story to share. Your story is your superpower, and it's unique to you. In sharing it with the world, you can impact millions of people. If you keep it to yourself, you are doing the world a disservice. This is Dela. I'm the host of Dela's Voice, and I help you share your superpower with the world. Well, hello, and welcome to another Dela's Voice Sunday live talk show. What would you do with a second chance at life? Watch this. Meet Jeffrey Morse. Jeffrey had a career in the U.S. Air Force as well as a career flying for commercial international cargo airlines. Jeffrey spent a lot of time traveling the world and enjoying his life until one day the unthinkable happened. He found out he had an aneurysm close to his spine. He had no choice but to undergo a life-threatening surgery. When he woke up, he was paralyzed. He was told he would never walk again. But yet, he did. He learned to walk again and promised himself that he would write a book to tell everyone all about it. You can find his book, Finding Forward, on Amazon. Please welcome Mr. Jeffrey A. Morse on Dela's Voice. Hello, Jeffrey. Welcome.
Hello, Dela. How are you? Thank you for inviting me to your show.
Of course. It's so wonderful to have you on here. I can't wait to dig into this fantastic story. What an incredible journey, Jeffrey.
Thank you. Yes, it's been an amazing 9 years since it all began, and I'm so thankful to be here each and every day.
Oh, my goodness. What would you do with a second chance at life? And we're going to dig deep into that. But first, I want to say hello to all the viewers who are here today watching us live. I want to make sure that you know that your input, your comments, your questions, your own experiences are so valuable to this show. Please do keep engaging in the chat. And then during the second half of the show, we're going to open the phone lines, and I will display that phone number on the screen so that you can call in and actually talk to us and we can hear you. So welcome, Jeffrey. What an amazing story. When I spoke to you last month in preparation for this talk, I had no idea what I was going to hear. You actually came into my life through a friend, Deborah Sweezy, and I want to make a shout out to her right now because she always introduces fantastic people to me. And I thought, wow, what a story! What a story! You know, I do believe that we all have our own unique story, but to go through something like this and to come through it and be able to talk about it and to be able to write a story about it, it's not easy. It's not something simple, and it took a lot of effort. What does it mean for you to be able to tell your story today?
Oh, when I think back over it over the last 9 years, I think back on that day often of waking up paralyzed, and through the trauma and devastation of it, through uh, the claustrophobia and all the fear and the unknown. Through all of that, I told myself I needed to set a goal. I needed to set a lot of goals, but the first goal was that in realizing, hey, this has happened, and wow, there's no instruction book for it. I want to write about this. I want to write to people who are going through the same thing, to tell them your life isn't over. There is hope out there, and it begins with you. So I started that journey, and it took a while before I could figure out how to start journaling things for the story. But as time went on, I continued to do that. I started looking at alternative therapies outside of the medical field to find my way back and to show people that, hey, this is possible. Yes, you're going to have to take a few leaps of faith, but if you can open your mind and open your heart and be objective and keep the words "I can't" out of your vocabulary, you can find your way forward through this one way or another. And the most important thing is that you've been given a second chance at life. So don't squander that. Live your life and find a way to be happy every day.
Mm, mm. We take so much for granted, Jeffrey, every single day of our lives. Looking back at your life, and I want you to please walk us through that experience. But I'm looking at these pictures that we displayed for our viewers. You had a good life. You had it all made. Like you're this, I mean, I think being a pilot is amazing. Um, but the traveling you did, you went all over the world. You had so much fun. You had such a great life. Did And then something like this happens. Something as devastating as this happens.
Yeah.
What's going through your mind?
Uh, well, um, so as I was saying earlier, I set a goal. And after that first goal, I said to myself, you know what? Why don't you just start making a bunch of goals, ridiculous goals, goals that right now there's no way you're going to be able to do them. But, set them out there anyway and strive to see if one day you can do them. One of which was walking on a beach I used to walk on when I was much younger down in South Florida. And I made that a goal. And years later, I made that happen. I walked on that beach. The first time I walked
Oh
on it,
my gosh.
I
If we
couldn't
could
walk
only
far.
walk on that beach again, right? This is
Yeah, so I made it happen. I went to Paris again. I missed going back to France, so I wanted to go back to France. Made that happen. 4 years into it, I decided it was time to take another trip on my own and go to Nepal for a couple of weeks. So, I just threw caution to the wind and said, "Hey, you only get to do this once, so go live it and figure it out. Go do those things you used to do before and create new memories."
so many of us can get hit with something like this, and we give up. We, you know, then we start living in that place of poor me. Why did this happen to me? But I'm a good person. I've been such a good person. I've been such a good human being. Why? Did you ever ask yourself those questions on that day when you woke up from your surgery and you knew? First of all, can you walk us through that day? What happened that day?
Well, I went into a surgery at 7:30 in the morning on July 9th, 2012, knowing that I had less than a 25% chance of surviving that surgery. And I said to the doctor, hey, at least it's not 0%. So I'll take those odds, whatever they are, and let's make things happen. So when I woke up from it, I quickly realized I was paralyzed from the neck down. I went through all of the panic anybody would go through under those types of circumstances. And for whatever reason, the survival mode in me kicked in. something I learned, in survival school in the Air Force. That part of me just instantly kicked in, and I embraced it and started saying, okay, let's figure this out. What are we going to do first here? Don't let the panic take over. So, yeah, we can go into these things and say, why did it happen to me? God, why did you pick me? What was so bad in my life that you chose to bestow this upon me? And that's not it. In my case, it might have been something I was born with. I lived a perfectly healthy life, but things happen. Um, so now it's time to move on. Doctors may say to you, okay, here's the circumstances and here's what you're left with. However, they're not in your body. So you get to make those choices. You get to make those determinations. You get to be your own advocate. So figure things out and what you want to do. And that's exactly what I did. I was only going to let positive things into my world, as small as that world was. And although I had no more sense of fight or flight because I'm paralyzed, I had to navigate my way through this. And that's exactly what I did.
Oh, um, that takes a lot of my mind power, I would say. And you had that training in your life, so you could switch quickly to that mode. Um, let's have a look at the comments and let's see, and then we'll come back. Okay, how's that?
Okay.
Let's have a look. See. So there's a lot of people here right now, and I want to make sure we acknowledge you. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. Debbie says, "Love this man. What an incredible man." I'm so happy you connected. She says, "Thank you, Debbie." Erin says, "Hi from Stroke TV Media." He was also given a second chance at life, just like you, Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, Aaron has an incredible show called Stroke TV Media. I'm sure you can connect and be interviewed on that show. I think that would be a fantastic connection
I'd be
as well.
happy to.
I've got a lot of viewers here. I've got let me see if there's anything here. Oh, Mohammed says, how can we delete I cannot from one's dictionary?
Oh, that's a real good question. Um, the way I would answer that is, when I first came upon this, was the first day that I went into physical therapy, paralyzed. They put me in a wheelchair, wheeled me down there, and the first thing they did was wrap a belt around my waist and pull my body up into the vertical position. And when they did that, I quickly realized a couple of things. One of which is I'm standing here and I can't feel my body, but my body is standing. And I immediately thought to myself, okay, this is a leap of faith, number one. But number two, I've got to start thinking differently now. I can't think the way I did before with the old body. That's gone now. That Jeff has died. He died on the table. He's gone. Now here's the new Jeff. So that being said, I need to look at things differently. Okay, I can't feel my body, but they've got me standing. So that must mean something. And those were the little things that I embraced. So,
Jeff, is this what you're talking about?
no, that was actually later. In that picture, after they figured out they could get me standing and they could talk to my muscles because I couldn't feel anything on the skin layer, and the vertical position was starting to work more for me. That device there, that contraption, is called a locomat, and it's actually a robot that's attached to my body, and they have me hoisted there, as you see, and they are just putting 30% of my weight on that treadmill beneath me. And as I'm looking ahead there in that picture, I'm staring at a television screen of an animated version of me looking at a path. So when they turn that device on, the device starts making my legs move again, uh, so I can relearn how to walk. Um, and they told me you'd be lucky if you make 2 or 3 minutes out of this, maybe five tops. I stayed in that contraption the first time for 30 minutes.
Oh, wow.
So, and I got,
That's a lot of willpower.
yeah, it is. It is. And, to take this a step further, for your viewers out there, if we're going to talk about paralysis, let me explain it this way to you. Imagine you go through your whole life and you've got this little version of you in your brain that's writing every instruction of every movement you take from the time you're a baby and you learn how to stand to you first learning how to tie your shoes or hold a knife and a fork in your hands. Um, Maybe later on in life, it's water skiing or snow skiing. All of these movements, imagine they're all written on a whiteboard in your brain. And then all of a sudden, one day, this stroke thing happens and you're paralyzed. And all of those instructions, a lifetime of instructions, are now erased. They're gone,
Oh, oh,
all of them.
scary
And
place to be.
now you've got to rewrite it all. And that's your job now. So forget whatever your job was before. Get that out of your mind. That's the old you. Now it's time to focus on the new you. And you can't get there with those two words, I can't or I cannot. So those words have got to be tossed off to the side so you can now focus down on what you want and get there however possible. But while you're doing it, don't compare yourself to people that don't have restrictions, limitations, people that don't have disabilities. They're not in your world. So don't compare yourself to them. You are comparing yourself to just yourself. So if you can get there, that helps you get through these things to find your way into a new place. It's not easy. It takes time. You've got to learn patience when you're doing it. I'm 9 years in, and I'm still limited. I still use a cane to walk from time to time, but I've moved exponentially forward because I chose to think differently. And you can do that too.
That when you woke up from your surgery, the doctor said you will never walk again.
He came into the room and he said he put his hand on my shoulder and basically said you made it through surgery. However, it looks like you had a stroke while we were operating on you, and the artery they were working on was right next to my spinal cord, and it created what they call an infarct, which was the size of a needle point on my spinal cord, and that was enough to paralyze me from the neck down. And then he said, "You're more than likely never going to walk again, but you're alive." And I told him, "Well, I'll walk out of this hospital." And on the day that I departed the hospital, they wheeled me up to the door. I had a walker with me. I, got up from the chair. It wasn't pretty, but I did. And as ugly as it was, to people without restrictions, I managed to put one foot in front of the other out of that door to the car.
Oh.
So there's mind over matter for you. And I couldn't feel my legs. I couldn't feel my arms, but I made that happen. So
Oh, this is huge. This is huge. And I mean, you said not to compare, but this is a different comparison. I think a lot of us, and I mean, I'm healthy and I don't have to relearn anything, but a lot of times I get stuck in that mode of I can't, this is too big for me. And what you did, Jeffrey, creating this miracle, and actually there's a comment here, and I want to ask the same question. What was that inner force, that driving force that made you create this miracle?
Uh, um, One way I would answer that is, the week I woke up paralyzed, it was a Monday. A couple days later, they wheeled me into a rehab center. And my roommate had diabetes and lost a leg below the knee from an accident, car accident. He passed out driving and went into a diabetic coma. And when he woke up, he's missing a leg. And he was giving up. He didn't want to work with the doctors or nurses, didn't want to work with the physical therapists. And here I am in this room with this man, and I'm listening to his story each night. Neither one of us could sleep. I couldn't sleep because anytime I closed my eyes, my body, what was left of my body, disappeared. So couldn't sleep. So I would talk to him every night. One of the things I found in talking to him was that I realized I still had something to offer. Okay, I can't move my body, but I can help give somebody hope and inspiration. And that's exactly what I was doing with him. And this is where I started getting my fuel and realizing that, hey, I might be down, but I'm not out. So every night I would talk to him, and unbeknownst to me, the nurses' station was right outside our door. And the nurses would sit out there crying every night, listening to me, somebody who's paralyzed from the neck down, trying to motivate somebody who's lost a leg to get back in the game. And I would tell him, look, all you need is a prosthetic leg and you're ready to go. It's going to take a little more for me, but I'm not down and out yet either. So if I can make a way back, and yeah, I'm still a question mark, you can definitely make your way back. So that's where some of the fuel began for me.
Mm. Um, so when you were working as a pilot in the Air Force, and then later on in the commercial um, industry, were they moments that you were afraid during those times? I mean, I can only imagine having all these lives really depending on you. But
Well, when you go through all that training, especially in the flight simulator, you go through these scenarios time and time and time again to the point that they just become regular. You realize if you lose an engine, the plane's not going to explode into a ball of flames. It's not what you see on TV. And you just deal with it and you keep
oh, it's
rolling the
not.
dice. No. So you just deal with it and you move on. Now, sometimes some things happen that you sit there and you really shake your head. I had a flight one time coming out of Basel, Switzerland, going to Chicago, and we were just south of London, making our way up to our coast out point to do an Atlantic crossing. And we weren't painting anything on the radar. And suddenly we've got cantaloupe sized hail raining down on top of us. And one buddy of mine had gotten up out of his seat to go to the back to get a bite to eat. And the next thing we know, we went negative. So
What does
everything
that
wasn't
mean,
strapped down.
Jeffrey?
What's that?
What does that mean? You went
Going
negative.
negative, if it's not strapped down, it's floating. So next thing I know, he's back there floating around in the compartment, and the catering cart that he was going into to get a bite to eat, it went weightless as well with him. And that happened 3 times. So he went to the ceiling and hit the floor 3 times. So, that was pretty dicey. I've had other experiences coming out of Dubai, going to Singapore. You're flying over India and it's monsoon season, and sometimes you're 250, 300 miles off course trying to figure out a place to pick your way through the weather over the Bay of Bengal. And yeah, that'll get a little interesting at times. But for the most part, you have a problem, you deal with it. No big deal. Move on. That's why you train.
So I think I was getting to a point where I wanted you to give us a comparison of those moments of fear and oh my gosh, my life's gonna end. My life may end compared to that moment of I'm never going to walk again. They say I'm never going to walk again, or I may never walk again.
Well, the first question, what's it like? What's paralysis like? So let me paint that picture for you. How many times in your life have you woken up in the middle of the night, you were sleeping on your arm, and the blood flow stopped going into your arm and your arm went to sleep? And fight or flight kicks in right there, and you're so alarmed by it when you wake up that you not only sit up in bed, but you turn the light on because you can't feel that arm. You don't know where it's at, and it's panicking you. uh, you've got to see it. It's that primal part of you kicking in saying, hey, I don't have any connection. Your brain is saying, I don't have any connection with that arm. So you turn the light on, you see it, you feel the blood flow coming back in, the pins and needles, and you're desperately trying to shake it. It feels like rubber, and you're just constantly shaking it until you're getting return and saying, okay, here's this thing in front of me and it's still attached to me. Now take that a step further. You just woke up and it's not just your arm, it's your entire body. And you're trying desperately to talk to your entire body, but you can't. There's paralysis. That's what paralysis is. So um, you've got no way of protecting yourself anymore. If somebody were to drop you, you don't have any way of putting your arms out so you can protect your head when you're going to the floor. Had that happen. So there's paralysis. Now, how do you combat that? What I did was, of course, after the doctor telling me you're more than likely never going to walk again, well, that's your opinion. You're not in my body. So I'm not going to let that in. Uh, for me, the hardest thing at that point was breathing. It affected my diaphragm. Every breath that I took was extremely difficult. And I was at a point right there where I was literally living one breath at a time. I was living from one breath to the next for months. That's how much of a question mark I was. But I wasn't living in regret. I'd lived a full life up to that point. 49 years old, I've lived a really good life.
Oh my
And
gosh. That's
I
so
said to
young.
myself, well, if this is where it ends, then this is where it ends. I can't control that. Um, but fate kept intervening. And, if it was one direction or the other, one direction you die, one direction you live, for whatever reason, the angels were hovering over me. And, I continued to live. So, with that in mind, hey, that's a good sign. Each day I wake up, it's a good day. I'm alive. So get to work, figure something out, keep your mind busy, and start figuring out how you're going to get through this thing. And I did that in small spurts, small little gaps of, okay, here's what I was able to do today. Make a goal of something you're going to do today. Maybe it's just smiling. Maybe it's asking somebody how they're doing. Maybe it's getting somebody else to laugh, somebody that comes to visit you. Say something to them that gets them laughing so they're not thinking about the circumstances you're in. Or in my case, also helping that person in the bed next to me feel better.
Hmm. I have so many questions. Um, First of all, I want to say this to you. What you did is amazing. It- I think everybody who's watching this right now, they can put themselves in. I don't know. Can we like really truly feel what you were feeling? But you described that really well. It's a really tough place to be, Jeffrey. When you look back at that at what happened, do you ever is there times where you sit and think, why did that happen to me?
Yeah, yes, I do. I've thought about that for 9 years, and actually earlier this year, that question was actually answered. Back in March, I reached out to an old flying buddy of mine I've known for 25 years. We've flown all over the world together, and I hadn't heard from him in a while. And all of a sudden, I get a message from his wife that he had a stroke and it affected his memory. He lost most of his long-term memory and some of his short-term memory. So I asked if I could come out and spend a few days with them, and she said, absolutely. I think it would help both of us. So I went out there, and I don't know why, but my friend Lee remembered me and remembered some of our adventures flying around the world. And it was good to talk to him and get him to understand he was okay, and to tell his wife Rhonda, Lee's going to be okay. He's still in the shock of what happened 2 months earlier. Give his brain some time, and things will come back. So don't count him out. Just give him time and be patient with him. And I think it was good to connect in so many ways and answer so many questions for both of them. And while I was doing that, all of a sudden I have this thought enter my brain of, here's why you were kept around,
Ooh,
to help others. And
goosebumps.
yeah, so yeah, it was pretty much that for me. And I was very thankful for that moment. I was glad, up through those times, being able to help others. And once again, you're saying, hey, you know what, you still have something to offer there, bud. So stick around and keep doing what you're doing. And anytime you get a chance to help somebody else, then do that. And I still remember the first time I did that 4 years out over in Nepal, helping another human being.
Oh, I want to go there. I want to go there. But first, let me just go to the comments section and
Sure.
welcome everybody who's on here right now watching us. Thank you so much. There are a few people on here who are living something similar to what you're living, Jeffrey, and it's amazing to see the same amount of courage in these individuals. And so I want to definitely acknowledge Michael Koss, who is also here watching you. And um, he asked the question, what was your driving force? And I think you answered that just now. And Aaron Avila is also a stroke survivor. He's been living in a wheelchair for the past 11 years. And so definitely he's dedicated his life to helping people living through the same things. And he says life is 10% what happened to you and 90% how you respond.
Yeah, I can agree with that a lot. You know, I found when I first started, I thought this was 80% physical and 20% psychological, and I quickly realized this is just the opposite. It's 80% psychological and 20% physical. And the more I put the physical aspects of it off to the side and just focused on the psychological aspects of it, the happier I was. I would work on whatever therapy I was doing. And it was important, always important to me to do those therapies. But it was equally important, especially when I was in my wheelchair and back home, when I could wheel myself over to a door and open a door and just wheel myself up so I could look outside and look at the trees, listen to the breeze blowing through the leaves, look at a blue sky, listen to birds, and just close my eyes, turn off all the chatter in my brain, and just listen to that. And those were little things that inspired me too. That, hey, you are still alive. Isn't it nice that you can stop and take those little things in and think about what they do to you? I think about other times of that with listening to hummingbirds feed from a hummingbird feeder and listening to the sounds of their wings and their little chirps while they're feeding, and just thinking to myself how relaxing that was to my brain, just to slow my life down a little bit and put everything else out so I could enjoy that.
Oh, Deborah says, yes, time to rebuild. Deborah also suffered a stroke, and she says she's still working on it with her memory issues.
Yeah, and it's okay that, maybe you don't remember something from the past. The one good thing here is you get to build new memories, and those were things that were important to me too. I wasn't so concerned about before, because before is behind me now, and um, I I want to be able to touch today, and when tomorrow comes, tomorrow comes. I'm not going to be wrapped around the future while I'm trying to live the present, and the present is what's most important.
Well, if we could just remember that. Jeffrey, you went to Nepal. When did you go to Nepal? Why did you go to Nepal? How
Well,
did you go to Nepal?
so 4 years into this, all the medication, the side effects of the medication, I've just finally said, you know what, I'm doing all this work with my own alternative therapies here, and from Pilates to um, neuromuscular massage therapy, and both of those were top notch and still are today. But I just realized, you know what, it's time to take a break, and with all this stuff you've been working on, go put it to use. So where would I like to go? And I said, hey, I've never been to Nepal.
Why not?
I'm going to go to Nepal. I'm going to go for 2 weeks, and I'm going to find every adrenaline rushing, outrageous thing I can find over there. I'm going to go do it. There's my goal. So if I'm able to do it, great. If I'm not able to do it, hey, that's fine too. At least I tried. So yeah, so I went over there, and I threw caution to the wind. Actually, I threw it in a garbage can, and went out and did all kinds of crazy, insane things.
So, what were some of those things you did?
Well, I did something called parahawking off the top of a 6,000-foot mountain, paragliding. Two gentlemen, I had the gentleman behind me flying this thing, and then two gentlemen on each side of me, and they're running down towards the edge of the cliff, and let go, and off we go. And while I was doing that, I was feeding an Egyptian vulture. So that's the picture on the front cover of the book. Um, when I finished that, I immediately
There it
went
is.
back. Yeah, there we go. Yep, and you can see the Himalayan mountains in the background. So get down to the bottom, race off back into town, hop on a bus, go right up to the top of the mountain again. I had to climb the last 300 feet to the top, which was quite interesting, but I did it. And then I did my first zip lining experience at 90 miles an hour, coming off the top of this 6,000-foot mountain going a
Of
mile.
course you did.
So then I went paragliding up into the Himalayas early one morning. Uh, we were up in the mountains at 14,500 feet. And I think it was 10 below zero that morning. So that was real invigorating. There's no fuselage. It's just, you looking outside the side, and trying to find the Yeti. So did that. And then when I got back to Kathmandu, I chartered a helicopter to take me to go see Mount Everest. And this was the pinnacle of my trip, the whole reason for going. So we landed at a plateau at 18,500 feet. I got out of the helicopter on my own power by myself, walked out away from the helicopter, stared at Mount Everest, the tallest mountain in the world, and said, you know what? I don't need to climb any more mountains. And I wanted to tell the tallest mountain in the world that. So I did it. And the other reason I chose to do this was while I was standing there facing Mount Everest, I wanted to thank everybody, all of my therapists and caregivers, family, everybody, for helping me get to where I was, because I certainly didn't do any of that on my own. So those are important moments for me. After they whisked me off in a helicopter, we went to a hotel, the Mount Everest Hotel at 13,000 feet, and I had champagne breakfast and invited all the guests, perfect strangers, to come have a toast of champagne with me that morning. And a Japanese lady politely said, "So what are we toasting?" And I said, "Life." And she said, "Oh, great, I love that." So we did it. And after that, we made our way back to the most dangerous airport in the world, Lukla Airport. And
What
uh,
makes it dangerous?
what's that?
What makes it so dangerous?
It's on the side of it's at the runway is at 9,200 feet. It's only a 1,700-foot runway with a 12-degree upslope, and it terminates at the other end at the base of a mountain.
Oh,
So, yeah, it's
yeah,
dangerous.
pretty
So,
dangerous. Oops.
that's where all the climbers go into as they're making their way to Everest to go climb Everest. But while we were there, the helicopter was being refueled, and a Sherpa guide was there to help me just take a little walk through the village. And on our way back to the helicopter, I could see a lady crying frantically, trying to talk to the pilot in Nuari, the local language. And I asked my guide, what was she trying to say to him? I was really concerned. And he told me this was on a Friday. And he told me 2 days earlier, her husband was involved in an accident, I think up by base camp, and they had to life flight him to Kathmandu. And she's finding out 2 days later that her husband passed away. So she was trying to ask the pilot for a ride. And apparently he was telling her the helicopter was chartered. So I asked the guide, "Hey, can you help me down the steps over to the pilot so I can talk to him?" And he said, "Yeah, absolutely." So I got over there and I said to the pilot, I said, "Hey, this is my charter today. I understand this lady's trying to get to Kathmandu." I said, "We've got room on the helicopter. We're taking her with us." So we did. We got her back to Kathmandu, got her in a cab to go to the hospital, and I never saw her again. But 2 days later, my guide and his wife were asking me the night before I was leaving. Um, I took them out to dinner at a traditional Nepali restaurant. And while we're sitting there, they asked me, "So you've been here 2 weeks. We don't usually get guests here that are here that long. What's the one thing that you did that you enjoyed most here in our country?" And they said, "We understand if it takes you a little while to answer that." And I said, I don't need a little while. I can answer that right now. What I enjoyed most was being able to help that lady get to the hospital from Lukla back to Kathmandu. I said, doing the things that I did, people get to do those things every single day. But how often do you get to help another human being? That was what was most important to me. And the reason it was most important was, once again, it said to me, you still have something to offer people. And that really meant so much to me, to be able to help that lady in that time of need.
That's really, really nice. Such a beautiful story. You changed that woman's life. I mean, I think to be able to do such a service is incredible. She would never forget that, Jeffrey.
Well, on the helicopter ride back, she was talking to my guide and his wife, and I was just so torn up. One, that I didn't know the language, so I didn't know what she was saying, and all I could think about on the 45-minute flight back was, I wish there was something more I could have done. And after getting her in a cab to go to the hospital, when my guide and his wife were taking me back to my hotel, I was asking them what she was saying because I felt so bad. And they said, "Jeffrey, she wanted us to promise that we would tell you thank you from her she was so grateful that you did that. And, it's important in our lives to do selfless acts that you don't need payment in return for, to help others. And for those of us that are with limitations and disabilities, anytime we get to give back, that's part of your healing. That's where your fuel comes from. Even if you're just asking somebody how their day's going. It doesn't have to be something to the degree of what I just mentioned. It could be as simple as, "Hey, how are you doing?" or even saying thank you to your caregivers, or a friend for coming to visit you. It doesn't have to be something over the top. It could be something as small as that, and that's where you get your energy from.
Mm. All of this, of course, it's in your book.
Yes, yes, it
Can you
is.
show can you show us your beautiful book, Jeffrey?
Uh, so here's, let's see, there's the book, Finding Forward, You Have the Will Within. And yes, I do talk about all of that in the book. A lot of funny things along the way. And I equally talk about, the things that I went through, the things that weren't easy, as well as all the different types of therapy that I tried, things that challenged me along the way. And I wasn't going to let the things that might have been not so good or bad um, pull me away from where I was trying to get. Okay, something bad happens. Maybe it's an experience with another person or people. Um, but those things happen every day, and we can't let those things affect where we're trying to get. Those are just challenges. Those are everyday challenges, life challenges. And find your way through it, and find a way to be positive when you come out the other side of it. Okay, this thing has affected you, but you get to move on.
It's beautiful. Um, Jeffrey, what's one of the most important things, strengths? No, yeah, I think that's what I want to ask. Yeah, what is one thing that has given you a lot of strength to be able to live through all of this? If you were
People,
people,
people, yeah,
oh, I was not
instantaneously.
expecting that.
People are my strength. Um, you know, Even if I'm in some sort of pain I'm still in pain from time to time, but I don't let that affect where I'm trying to go. And when I get the opportunity to talk to people. I'm still an airline instructor. I get to talk to new faces all the time and inspire them into their new world of becoming an airline pilot. So it's fun for me to inspire people there. It's really great when I get to talk to other people that are going through their own limitations and disabilities. It's fun when I get to talk to people on Facebook, for instance, or Instagram, just to listen to their stories and listen to what they're going through. But overall, where does my strength come from? People, um, listening to how other people are living their lives, and being grateful for my own life. But yeah, without a doubt, it's people every day.
So this you're can you still hear me, Jeffrey?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a picture. This is you teaching the younger pilots.
No, no, no.
No,
This, so an old Air
I
Force
thought
buddy of
that
mine,
was really fun.
yeah, so an old Air Force buddy of mine, is the director of operations at a company called Zero G, and
For
he's
gravity.
one of the pilots. Yeah, so they take their 727 up, and they take 30 or so people up, and they put the plane through what they call parabolic arcs. So the plane is constantly doing that. And when you go up over the top, that's when you go weightless. So you don't have any windows to look out of. You're laying on a padded floor in a padded room, if you will, inside that plane. And you get to experience what weightlessness feels like. You get to experience,
Actually,
yeah.
whoa, we're gonna look at that one more time.
So yeah, so we're all floating in the airplane there. And floating like that would be what they call zero gravity, if you will, what you would experience if you were on the International Space Station. They also introduce you to what it's like with Mars gravity and lunar gravity with the moon. So yeah, you go up and you do 15 of these things, and for an hour and a half, you're getting to experience weightlessness.
Oh, that would be fun, but I
Yeah,
really didn't think that was actually up in the air. I thought that was just a
yeah.
simulation.
You go up to about 24,000 feet, and they climb the thing up to they climb the plane up to about 32,000 feet in the climb, and it's almost straight up when they're climbing. But you're laying on the floor; you don't feel any of that. And when it goes over the top, that's when you go weightless.
Oh,
So
that sounds like it's fun. Deborah says, "Today I am too blessed to be depressed, too anointed to be disappointed."
I love it. Those are beautiful words.
Yes, yes, they are. They are. Um, you love to laugh.
Yes.
I know you told me a story about something that funny that happened to you. Maybe not so funny while you were going through it, but you told me that story and we both laughed. And how important is humor to you?
Oh, I can't do without it. I've always enjoyed that my whole life. Sometimes in my flying days, if we were doing a 10-hour flight out of Honolulu down to Sydney, Australia, or, you're doing an Atlantic crossing, there's always got to be a practical joke. And that was one thing I was always known for, keeping the laughter going. So that was something that, we did in the Air Force. It was things that I did in my commercial career, but, it was something that I equally carried forward. Even when I was paralyzed. So if I was in the wheelchair at the hospital being taken down to physical therapy, my best friend and diving buddy, Charlie Brown, he was yes, Charlie Brown. He was a police
Actually,
officer there in the area of the hospital. The hospital was in his patrol area. So he would come by every day to see me. And when he would do that, he'd make his way over to my room. And if I wasn't there, a nurse would politely say, "Can I help you?" And he would say, "I'm here to speak to Jeffrey Morse." And the nurse would say, "Is everything okay?" And he would say, "Well, I can't talk about that." So, the nurse would walk away thinking, "Oh my God, something must be wrong." So later on, I'm being wheeled back to my chair or back to my room in my chair. And the nurse would come up and say, "There was a police officer looking for you. Is everything okay?" And I would look at her and say, "Oh, well, I can't talk about that right now." So, just having the ability to laugh, and more to the point, getting other people laughing. Once again, where do you find your energy? In places like that. So, yeah, yes, it's been a part of my life, my whole life, and I'm extremely thankful for it.
um, sometimes when you are going through a rough patch, it's hard to laugh. It's hard to find things that you can be amused by. But to be able to find the humor in your own predicament, I think it's a force in itself to that pushes you, and it to be able to make light of things that other people might look at and say, "Oh, that's tough." So it's right, and I know not a lot of people are capable of that. No, I want to say we're all capable of that. I think, but we hold ourselves back.
Yeah, when I was in the hospital, um, especially the week that I woke up paralyzed, you're grateful for everybody that comes to see you. And the first thing I would see with them walking through the door is the grief on their face of, oh my God, he's paralyzed. What do I say? What do I do? Am I saying the right thing? Can I help him feel better? And the first thing on my mind as I would see that look on their faces is, let me help them out here. So I would go right into something funny to get everybody crying, laughing. And if I could achieve that, then yeah, okay, once again, yes, I still have something to offer, but oh boy, does it feel good just to get everybody else laughing. And, you know, I'm struggling to breathe every breath, but even through that, if I could help people do that, those are the things that helped me through the night when I couldn't sleep. Think back on whatever story I was telling to get everybody laughing. But the other part of it was, if I could do that each time they came to visit, then they would want to come to visit more instead of
We got a
thinking,
phone call, Jeffrey.
sure.
Let's answer that phone call. Thank you for calling Dela's Voice. You're on the air.
Good morning, Dela. How are you?
Good morning, Michael. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Can I ask Jeffrey a question? Jeffrey, I would just like to commend you from one survivor to another. Your story is very inspirational. Now, Jeffrey, I have one question for you, sir. What was your driving force in your recovery to date? And what keeps you smiling and keeps you putting one step forward?
Well, Michael, first, it's an honor and a privilege to talk to you. Thank you for calling in. So my
Jeffrey, I want
driving
to thank
force.
you and
Go ahead.
Oh, so I think he hung up and he's going to listen.
Okay, so with the first question, my driving force was to keep going, to keep living. My life is my own to choose, whether or not I'm going to keep living or not. And I'm not going to let somebody else tell me, what my choices are. So, I was thankful to the doctor and the medical staff for what they had to say, but they're not in my body. I'm in my body, and I get to make those choices. So, and I wanted them to be happy choices, and I was going to move in that direction. So, my driving force every day was to live and to be happy doing that.
We got another phone call.
Okay.
Thanks for calling Della's Voice. You're on the air.
Hello, Miss Dela.
Hello, Miss Deborah.
How are you? This show, you guys, is absolutely incredible today. Jeffrey, you are such an inspiration, my friend. I am so honored to have met you, and you remind me so much of myself. And I believe Dela's the same way. Having that spirit for people and connecting to people and having that ability to help each other even when we're down, I think is one of the greatest gifts we can be giving each other.
Yes, I couldn't agree with you more, Deborah. I couldn't agree with you more.
Are you
It's
there?
such a pleasure to know you.
Can you hear me? Deborah, can you hear us?
Yeah, did you hear me?
Yes, of course. Jeffrey's just,
Oh, okay.
yeah, Jeffrey just commented back on what you just said.
Okay, it kind of broke off, but that's all I wanted to say, because I love the fact that he feels that way, because it's so incredible. A lot of people withdraw from people during those tough times. And if you can stay connected and bonded to people, that's what's going to pull you out the other side. And I just love that. And I love the laughter and just going out there and pushing yourself. I always been that way, and sometimes people don't understand that I too have gone through hardships, because I laugh through it, I smile through it, and I push through it. So kudos, guys. Beautiful show. I love you both.
Thank you, Deborah.
Yeah,
Thank
Have a great Sunday.
Thank you, Deborah.
Bye, Jeffrey.
Keep listening.
Bye-bye. I will.
Bye-bye. So I want to say thank you, Deborah, for connecting us again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm so thankful for that. I really am. She is such a beautiful person. She really is.
Go ahead, Jeffrey.
Oh, I was just going to say, she brought up something interesting there with, when we go through these things, it's easy for us to push ourselves into being introverted and stepping away from being social because of what's going on with us. And the one thing I would first say about that is do everything you can to push back on that. Okay, you can't do things differently, but if you have a caregiver that's helping you and trying to help you become extroverted and get back into your life again, then have a conversation with them about what makes you comfortable and what makes you uncomfortable. So let's say it's this time of year, there's Christmas parties going on, and you're afraid to go to a Christmas party because of your limitation, and it's difficult to hold a plate or hold a cup, and you're afraid of dropping something. Explain that to your caregiver. Tell them, what's comfortable here. Can you sit at a chair at a table and um, help facilitate eating and drinking while you're trying to have a conversation with people? But take that leap of faith is what I'm saying. It's so easy to say no, I don't want to do it, and then no becomes no for everything else, and you're detracting yourself from life. And you need those social interactions to help you prevail and to this is part of your healing as well. The other thing that I would say of it is um, one thing I find interesting with what we go through with limitations, especially paralysis, those those limitations really parallel what's going on in the world right now with the pandemic. People have withdrawn and pulled themselves into their house, and people are afraid to step out again. The reasonings are your own, but it's the same thing. You've stepped back, you've pulled yourself away from what it means to be social and how to do that. So it's really important that we are all able to do that in some manner, because those are the things that connect us with being a human being.
Excellent. Excellent. Excuse me. Jeffrey, if looking back now, this is just a rhetorical question. What would you have changed?
Nothing. What was dealt to me was dealt to me, and it's my job to find my way through it. And I'm doing that. I'm still doing it. And I'm okay with it. Okay, I was given this challenge, and I think beyond the aneurysm, the stroke, the paralysis, and all that came with that, what was the test? To survive, to embrace this new life that I was given. And I do that every day. I give back every chance that I can, but I also live my life. And I'm thankful for that life every single day. And anytime I get the opportunity to help somebody else, that just helps me that much more. And I'm grateful for those things every single day. One thing I've been grateful for my entire life is every person that I've had the opportunity to meet and know. I've always felt that all of those people have helped me become a better person. And I'm so grateful for that my entire life. So I'm not going to squander this second chance at living. I'm going to live my life, and I hope each of you do the same.
Deborah says, "Live and die on empty."
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. When you get to the end, if you can get there on an empty tank, man, you lived life really good.
Donna says, my beautiful friend Donna says, "You shine a beautiful light and are a great example of what humans were created to be and do."
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for saying that. We all need to do that. We need to be happy with our lives.
When when you are on the streets, or you go somewhere, and you're with your disability and walking with a cane or whatnot, um do you the reactions you see from people, Jeffrey, what what do you want to tell people when they encounter someone with disabilities?
Get to know the person inside. Uh, the first thing I would say of that is don't judge a book by its cover. Um,
Yeah, like this man.
so don't judge others. If it doesn't say the honorable in front of your name, then you don't reserve the right to judge other people. That's something I've always said. You know um, I remember going to Paris, my first trip out of the country after all this happened, and I wasn't walking pretty at all. And one of the things that I just absolutely loved about Parisians is, I'd go get on the metro, and it would be difficult to step into one of the cars, and of course the cars are full, and people would part the Red Sea to give up a seat for you because you were disabled. And I just thought that was always so heartwarming for people to do that. You know, um, it's really important to look somebody else in the eye, whether they're standing or sitting in a wheelchair, and say to them, "How are you doing today?" And smile, and do it just because. You don't need a reason to do it. Just do it. And think about how happy you just made that person's day because you stopped to acknowledge them and acknowledge that you see them and they exist. So those things are really important. Whether you're limited or not, we all have the ability to do that. And wouldn't it be great if we all did that? There's so many negative things in our world right now. Wouldn't it be great if we could do little things like that to create positive memory, and positive memory to the extent that it becomes our muscle memory, so things start turning around and becoming more positive each day?
I love you, Jeffrey Morse.
Thank
Um,
you, Della.
what would you want to leave as a legacy?
I would want all of my brothers and sisters out there with limitations and disabilities to know that you're all okay. You've gotten another chance. Live your life. Live it happy. Find a way to make it happy. And while you're doing that, please don't ever forget to thank those that help you. Thank your caregivers. Thank your therapists. Thank them for everything that they do. Because a lot of times what they do is very thankless. And you just taking one moment to look them in the eye and say, thank you for everything you're doing for me, means the world. And I guarantee if it makes them feel better, it's going to make you feel better too.
Once again, I want to make sure that everybody knows the name of your book, Finding Forward. So if you could hold it up again one more time, Jeffrey.
I'd be happy to.
Thank you. So
Whoops,
yeah, a little bit to this.
there we go.
Yes. Okay, Finding Forward. You Have the Will Within by Jeffrey A. Morse. You can find that anywhere books are sold. You can go to just under this post. There is a short link to the Amazon where you can purchase his book and read the story of this incredible miracle that Jeffrey made happen in his own life, and the miracle he keeps creating in the world, and the impact. It's fantastic.
Thank you so much, Della. It's such a pleasure to be here with you today. I can't thank you enough for inviting me on your show and to meet your listeners. It's such a pleasure to be here, a real honor and a privilege.
The pleasure is all mine, Jeffrey. Thank you for giving us your time today and for sharing so from the heart. It's been fantastic. And I want to
Thank you
make
so
sure,
much, Della.
yes, of course. And I want to ask you to please come back on the show
I would be honored.
and keep
I
us
really
posted.
would.
Thank you. And everyone who's been watching us today, and for your incredible input, the love, the comments, and the questions. I want to thank each and every one of you for being with us today on Dela's Voice Sunday Live Talk Show. I want to wish you a blessed rest of your day. And until next time, this has been Dela's Voice, sparking your soul. Take care, everyone. Bye, Jeffrey.
Bye, Dela. Have a wonderful weekend.
And you.
Thank you.